Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track. We've got a fabulous guest with us this morning, Danny Melling. How are you?
I'm great, thanks, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Danny, you're the interim director of member experience at ukactive, so it's a real pleasure to have you on talking about all the great stuff that ukactive are doing, but also some of the industry stuff that people probably aren't aware of. So probably the best place to start, because I can imagine most people in the industry know who you are, but just to give our listeners a run through, who's Danny Melling, what's your career up to now?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with ukactive coming up to 2.5 years now, believe it or not, wow. Which is at the time flies when you're having fun. Previous to that, I spent 15 years franchising kind of children's activity. So worked with a company called Education, went into 2,000 schools around the UK, delivering PE, sport, activity. Wow. So that was my connection with ukactive back then. I was a strategic partner. I used to sit on the kids council at ukactive, fully invested and bought into everything that they did from a lobby and influence perspective. So when it was my time to kind of move on, it was a natural progression for me to come over to ukactive. So the fitness fitness and leisure side of the sector was relatively new to me because I was more in the education, children's sport. So it's been about a learning curve and meeting new people, making new connections, but it's been great. Still actually own some of the franchises. So I started as a franchisee with Premier back in 2006. Okay. Still own a few franchises up and down the country of that, which I've got a team that run those for me. So effectively a non-exec within that business now.
Oh wow! And I guess that's a really because it's interesting because everybody sees ukactive very much as fitness. It's fitness, but it's not actually. It's very much the links to UK sport and all these other activities, and it's about trying to drive usage. It's trying to drive more people into exercise. And I guess coming from a background like that, where you're doing exercise with kids, is probably the number one place to start if we're trying to get people on a life cycle of exercise and fitness. Sorry, Danny, did you lose me there? Danny?
Sorry, man, I'm losing you a little bit, right?
Oh, okay. We can cut this out. That's not a problem. Are you there? Can you hear me now?
When you're talking, mate, it goes in and out a little bit.
Oh,
me or you?
Let me log out and log back in. Give me 2 secs.
No, a minute.
Can you hear me okay now? No? Oh. You okay now? No?
Yeah. You seem to when you talk. Yeah, I can hear you, mate. Yeah.
Is that working fine? Is it okay?
Yeah, that's better. That's much better.
That's bizarre. That's bizarre. Right, let's try that again. Just trying to think where to pick up from. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. So I can imagine, Danny, from your background in terms of sport and education, I can imagine that fits nicely into the ukactive field because obviously you guys are trying to drive more usage, more uptake of exercise, and I guess with that background working with kids, it's probably a really poignant place to start. Really, that's where we want people to start learning the values of exercise.
Yeah, absolutely right, and that was my background growing up. I'm sure you're the same. Best days, whether it's being kids, playing with mates, making friends through sport, being outside, through school. All the best memories for me come through sport. My friends that I've got today all met through sport. My best friends, So I think it's really important, certainly from a school's perspective, education coming through, and then building good habits for life. I've got 3 children of my own, and it's been an instrumental part of their life growing up as well, sport and being physically active. So it's really important to me.
Absolutely, and probably a good place to start in terms of the UK active stuff, Danny, is trying to get an understanding of what UK active are, because I think from a lot of my clients, and I was very much in this approach a few years ago, in terms of what is UK active and what's your remit. And I know that's probably a very difficult question to answer because of all the massive stuff you guys do, but I think it's important for people to understand what exactly you guys are.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good question, Ryan. I think hopefully it's quite simple to answer. So when I came in at the end of 2022, obviously coming out of the back of the pandemic, UK Active set Vision 2030, which was our 10-year strategy to support 5 million more people to be regularly active using our members' facilities and activities. And that was in line with Sport England, Unite the Movement, and then there's strategies set out of how we would do that and how we would support different groups of people to do it. And the membership then was kind of, we fine-tuned the membership to 3 key pillars of purpose. And that's to support, protect and inform our members. So for example, the sector risk register, any guidelines that are coming out, just kind of policies and support to protect. The next bit was champion and represent. So that's the lobbying work, which probably most people think about when they think UK Active straight away. But that's local and national lobbying, the influence straight into government. And then the final one is to support the sector growth. And that's the really important one, I think. That's getting more people more active more often. So that goes back to the vision of UK Active. So if you think those are 3 key pillars, everything that we do fits into those somewhere along the line. And it's really important that we have such a broad church, like you mentioned before, from a membership perspective. So it's not just your private sector gyms, it's not just your public leisure centres, it's not just your independent gyms, it's your what we class as wider activity. So everything that comes from third sector, outdoor industry, children's activity, national governing bodies of sport, and then obviously the suppliers into the sector as well. So it's a real broad church, which keeps it interesting. But I think that's really important that we kind of I use the phrase as the arrowhead. If you get to kind of the arrowhead, and that everybody feeds into that, and we can influence policy together. I think with my background as well, Ryan, being in franchising, I see a lot of synergies with what we do at UK as a trade association with franchising. That I want to make sure that there's bigger value and a louder, clearer voice. The more people we have feeding into one thing, it's just like franchising, right? You buy into a franchise, and you get more for your money than you would get if you had to do it alone. So from a value perspective, that's my big driver. So hopefully that answers.
Yeah, it does. And I guess the one question is, because everybody, rightly or wrongly, and you pointed out there that you guys are a trade organisation, but I think because of all the great work you guys do with the lobby and stuff, people see you guys as the governing body, and they're 2 vastly different types of organisations. And I guess I'm a big advocate of having a governing body for our industry, but I can understand why you guys don't. They're obviously very, very different organisations. Is that something you guys would like to be, or is it work better from a viewpoint of working with government and that to be a trade organisation rather than that governing body overseeing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're not a governing body, and no plans to be that. We're a trade association, so we are here to represent members. Absolutely, So we wouldn't be here without the members. So we've still got nearly 4,000 member sites across the UK, and our job is to be that representation of our members across the sector. A lot of people would ask, what's the role of UK Active and CIMSPA? And I feel like in the last few years, there has been a lot more clarity, a lot more collaboration, and hopefully that's reflected, and you see that as well. But we work very closely with CIMSPA, who are focus on workforce, and we're very much, our members are the operators.
And in terms of sorry, lost my train of thought there. In terms of you guys lobbying government, I mean, obviously you guys have done a hell of a lot of work, and I think the pandemic brought this out and sort of almost forced the issue. Someone had to jump in and be the advocate for the whole industry, even those that weren't members. I mean, what sort of things are you guys doing as an organisation to try and get a bigger voice for the industry in government?
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. I think in terms of the pandemic, there's a lot closer links, a lot more credibility, maybe from government. I could speak about that from the other side. So back in before my time at ukactive, so I was a member of ukactive at that time, and as a small business owner myself, as a franchisee, you know, we faced the same challenges of the shutdown of schools closing on that day, that fateful day in March, and we also turned to ukactive for lobbying, for support, for guidance. So in terms of the work we do with government, it's very much to showcase the impact and the positivity and the opportunity of our sector. So this whole work around health, and you know, we strongly believe and see that our sector is and can be that first mile of the NHS. We know there's not much money in the country. We know that the NHS is having huge problems, and we also know that there's some amazing work across our sector, public, private, wider activity across the whole sector, real innovation, and having some massive impact around the health of the nation, whether that be workforce and workplace health to rehabilitation, prehabilitation. We know it's out there, and that's in pockets in places, and some places the frustration some members we speak to isn't seen because they're too small. So we're all about that collective voice, showcasing that, bringing the case studies together, taking it to government, and also trying to take government out to our members as well, and bring the stakeholders out to see it. So we're obviously coming into a general election year. At the moment, we're looking at show and tell. We're asking members to share with us positive case studies that we can share with MPs, that we can bring stakeholders into our members' facilities and see it for themselves. And you've probably seen more recently the Fit for Office with the MP Challenge and partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
So the purpose of that, Ryan, is to let them see it and feel it. So take MPs and their teams, get them being physically active, get them measuring through MyZone, and then at the end of it, ask them how they feel. What was the difference? What impact did that have on their own mental and physical well-being? To real build that advocacy. So that
it's trying to get them to understand the benefits, because I can imagine as a group of people that and there's nothing against them, but they tend to be older. They come from a different generation where fitness and well-being wasn't necessarily the cornerstone of what we should be doing. So I guess it's trying to get them to understand the potential impact of what our industry can do for the nation.
Absolutely, and a really stressful job as well, right? So busy job, stressful job, lots on the move. So like everybody in every walk of life, I think it's important to see if we can fit that exercise, that routine, the positive benefits and the impact it can have.
The one thing that does scare me though, and this is just a personal viewpoint, is how little the sort of health of the nation when you come to fitness and well-being is actually a general election point, because none of the parties, it's a thing. And I appreciate the NHS and the inflation and all that is very important, but I've yet to see, and I know you guys are working really hard to try and get this, but I'm yet to see that side of it become a genuine manifesto point, and it's across the board, which is still a real shame.
Yeah, and so I think our policy team work daily. This is the team you probably see more of me and the membership team, but the public affairs and the policy team are working daily behind the scenes, meeting with government, meeting with the opposition, showing the impact of the sector, having advocacy meetings, and kind of trying to influence policy, and that's working well. And I do think that the health, it's very much so that our theme going into general election is that there'll be no wealth without health. So we're going to look at walking in the shoes of the MPs. We know that the budgets are tight and there's not much money, so we've got to look at where can we demonstrate that we can support. Not that there's going to be loads of money to invest, but actually where can we save money? And if we can, as a sector, support more people of working age to be fit enough to be in work and be productive, that'll bring more money into the economy. If we can reduce...
Amazingly, a lot of these projects wouldn't need huge, because the infrastructure's there. I mean, if you take a look at, I mean, I don't know as much about the public sector. Mine's more private background, but you speak to the likes of John Oxley, Andy King, and all those guys. The infrastructure's there to deliver a lot of these projects. All you need is the will of the government to get behind it, to sort of go, actually, we'll support this. Because let's be honest, 100 million to a government is very small. It's when you look at how they waste money elsewhere, that sort of cash but that sort of cash to drive these initiatives would be a huge impact on everybody who takes part, as well as our sector. It would just grow things massively. So it's just almost getting that right person to go, yes, actually, we believe in this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, for our new chair with his NHS and health background, is a massive advocate and a real support in driving those meetings into ICBs at local level as well. So it's a massive landscape, and I think maybe some of the frustrations over the years has been that people want instant wins. I genuinely feel that positive progress is being made. And we're getting there.
It's a 15-20 year plan. Let's be honest. It's why a lot of governments won't invest in these sorts of projects, because if you look at it from their point of view, they'll invest, they'll put the money in, and then potentially their opposition will get the benefits of it in 10 or 15 years' time when they've finally been voted out. It's like if the Tories did it 10 years ago, Labour would be singing and dancing about this amazing programme that's working in 5 years' time. I guess that's half the battle you guys face in terms of it's not a quick win. You can't go in there and suddenly go, we're going to reduce your NHS bill by X in 5 years, because it's just not going to happen. You're not going to reduce obesity levels significantly in 5 years. It will take 10, 15 years to change the mindset, won't it? So you're almost going, well, we've got a long-term project, but we need you to get behind it. So it's a lot harder, isn't it, to get that commitment?
Yeah, it is, and it takes time. But like I said, I genuinely think we're getting there. We're having that impact. There's an interest. We're having the meetings. They're coming out to see it. We've got the MSK hubs, and it's about focusing on a couple of key areas that we can make a difference and support, I think. And it's definitely around the economy and how we can support the growth of the economy through our sector and our members' work.
And in terms of, so I work with a lot of independent and franchise clubs, Danny, and I know obviously a few of them are members with you guys, or quite a few of them are. But what's the benefit of those? Because I guess the one thing, and I always saw this and believed it until I took a lot further look in terms of what you guys do, but quite often it was seen as the big boys would get all the support, but I know that's not true now. But what's the benefit of an independent, for instance, being a member of UK Active?
Yeah, it was very polite way of saying it, Ryan. I think a couple of years ago, I was invited to Rob Handy's Independent Gym Conference, and I think the first person I bumped into whilst I was getting a coffee made introductions, asked me where I was from, and said, "What? And they've sent you here?" So that was kind of the benchmark, and I think it's great, because that's what I'm all about. I'd rather have difficult conversations rather than front things up, because I know genuinely the impact and the work that ukactive does, and I've been on the other side when I was a member. So I think there's definitely that understanding, that communication piece. So I love working with independents because of my background with the small business and the challenges faced and so on. And you're right, we have a governance structure. So if I quickly explain the governance structure, which it's member council, because we're a trade body, and the member council is that we get the council off them. They offer their operational insights and expertise on the ground, what the challenges are at local level that feeds into our strategy. And within that governance structure, we've got 5 sector channels. So we have the private, so multi-site private. We have the public operators, independent gym owners, and then we have the suppliers and the wider activity that I mentioned earlier. So I think the progress that we've made in the last 18 months with that independent operator group has been massive. Core group of people who I'm incredibly grateful for their
I mean,
time.
you've got some great people on there, to be fair. I mean,
Brilliant.
I know most of them, and that you've got a great group of people on it.
Brilliant people, and and they come and they're honest, and they give their honest opinion, and we set the agenda, and they tell us what the challenges are, and we talk about the strategy and where they want to be, and they're there to represent the sector. So for other independent operators, I think there's the advocacy piece. It's understanding, like you said, it's not an instant win. It's having that support. So going back to those three pillars: support, protect, and inform. There's an always-on support at ukactive if it's a sector risk group. It's a bit like insurance, I guess. In some cases, you don't want to use that, but it's there. You know that it's there if you need it. And then it's feeding into the lobbying work and having that voice. A bit like voting. If you don't vote, don't go to the public.
I think that's the key, isn't it? I think sometimes they have to look at it and go, actually, these guys are looking at the whole industry, and yes, our voice has a small part to play, but it's always going to be a small part to play when you've got 5 different groups feeding in. So it's only going to be 20%, even if it's even. So they need to understand that. But the more people get behind you, the more money you guys have coming in from a membership perspective, the more data you got coming in from all those members, the more powerful that voice is with government. So if we sit here going, government's not helping us, but then everybody's sitting back and not supporting the process, then you can't really expect any change, can you?
Yeah, and listen, we take on board, and I think that communication piece is a lot of work. We're only a small team at ukactive. You're right, we're not for profit, so there's only 4 teams.
I didn't realise how small you were actually until I was doing some work with the Vitality program with you guys and having a look at that, and I didn't realise how small a team you actually were for what you deliver.
Yeah, so it's a small team, so we need that advocacy piece of the members, and our member councils provide that as well. And it's about getting out there and making sure that we're feeding back that work to the right set of channels of what they want to hear. So with independence, the council give us their steer. So where are the challenges? Workforce, energy, rates, them kind of things, and we discussed that. We brought Simspa into some of our member councils to talk about standard workforce, because again, that was really important. It was an important part of an agenda item for our independent operators. So we did that, and that worked. It was a really good session. We're looking at the rates relief. We're looking at energy and sustainable futures, and then we're looking at growth in general and kind of trends. So you might have seen recently the private sector benchmarking report that's been released. That's going to be a massive massive benefit for our members moving forward. And the next kind of stage of that is making sure, so that will start with kind of multi-site private operators, and we are working with independent operators. The next stage, working with our council to again build advocacy, so that working with suppliers as well, so they can API straight in. It's not a manual process, and we're getting more accurate, robust quarterly data across the entire sector. So we've got moving communities for public operators, private sector benchmarking, which will include independent. So all of that data is what we can aggregate up to help influence the lobbying work. So yeah, you're right. The more members we have feeding into that, then the louder that voice.
And it's not an expensive thing to do for private clubs, is it?
£550 a year, for the membership. I think for me, again, being a small business owner, we always had membership and always had FSB membership, for example, which again, similar, you use the FSB membership if you needed support. So yeah, we're a trade body. We've got that always on support. The guidance comes out, but we want the regional spread, Brian, because we are a strategic organisation. So that operational insights and what's really happening on the ground, that feeding in, is great. So I love attending the governance meetings. Love the governance structure, because having that conversation with the 5 different sector strands, although there's some consistency across the board with challenges, frustrations, opportunities, there's clearly nuances, because independent operators won't have marketing departments, for example. They do a lot, so it's slightly different nuanced challenges.
I can imagine it's quite interesting, those councils as well, the fact that you've got everybody from around the country coming into one place. So I can imagine the stuff certain things that are challenging in London certainly aren't in Manchester, for instance, and so you have all that. So I can imagine it's quite a interesting conversation for the day when you all sat down.
Yeah, and it's for that reason we want the regional voice as well. So the other thing to know is that we go around the country. We deliver a host 10 regional member network events, again for that very reason, and we encourage our members to attend, whether it's them or their staff. So it's a day, it's really informal, and it's then looking at the national agenda, the strategy, with a local spin. So kind of, what are your challenges here? Is that shared? It's a local network. We was recently in the Southwest. We've been planning that for a couple of years. Feedback from the Southwest that they felt isolated in some cases. So we went there. We had over 40 people in the room, stakeholders from active partnerships, local health, public operators, private operators, and it was really great, rich conversation. So we have 10 of them around the country. Encourage independent operators to come along to those as well, and we support Rob's events. So at the summer conference, Rob's summer conference, what we've agreed is that we're actually going to host our independent operator member council the evening before.
Oh, cool!
We're going to throw that open as a bit of an open opportunity for independent operators to come and sit in on that council so they can see what it's all about. So transparency is really important for me, Ryan. And
I think it should be for you guys, and I'll credit you guys here absolutely, because I think obviously I've been in the industry 25 years, FIA, then UK Active, and so on, and I think that was one of the big criticisms originally. It was very much a closed shop, and it definitely felt like it was the big boys. But I think since the pandemic moving forward, I don't know what changed in the mindset of the business, but it's definitely more open now. It's definitely, I think people can see more of the activities you guys are doing. I think either your marketing department or whoever it is doing a great job at getting that message out to say, this is what we do. Like I said, I think the pandemic gave you an opportunity to stand up, which was great, but it's a different organization now in terms of what it's seen as amongst the industry, and I think that's great, because the industry's crying out for leadership, and whilst you're a trade body, I think, and not necessarily a governing body, I do think you guys are the leadership of the industry, and I think everybody comes together and look at the pandemic. Everyone just looked at UK Active, go, what are you doing? And you're like, going, actually, guys, they're not actually our voice in that sense. They're a trade body, but you guys stepped up, made a massive difference, and I think that's made a massive change to the perception of UK Active going forward, which is great.
That's music to my ears, because that's what we want. But I would say that the pandemic, and again, kind of slightly before my time, but I think part of that change as well was that collaboration from members across the sector channels. So the safety data, feeding in that safety data benchmarking, which helped the sector to kind of be one of the first to reopen after the second lockdown. That showed, I think, the impact that by being collaborative, working together, can really have. And so it's a collective we. It's not UK Active's leadership as we. We're only as we're only as strong as our voices, and that's why we need that collective voice. So I go back to Arrowhead. We're the Arrowhead. We're the kind of the mouthpiece at government level, and we need our members to feed in.
Now, there's one thing that obviously you guys, I don't know how much you can talk about it because it's very new. It's all about the standards guidelines that you guys are looking to bring out. I don't know whether you can talk about that and talk through what it is. And I know it's quite a new project.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a new project. I'll give you an overview. It's a new project that's due to be launched soon, but the pilot's been going on for a few years. And I'll credit Paul Crane, who's our head of standards and risk, who's done an incredible job in the last 12 to 18 months. And again, it goes back to collaboration. So the aim of TAS, the active standard, is to support the credibility of our sector, is to support members with a checklist and a benchmark of predominantly health and safety. And I'm sure over time it will grow. But then I think that the whole link and collaboration, so we're not competing with other standards like Quest and FitCert. It's looking at that. And you go back to, you talk a lot about independent operators. We used the council for feedback, and the active standard will be part of memberships, not an additional cost. So that was one of the first questions that came out. This is great. How much will it cost? And it was like, no, it's part of the membership. It's about that credibility, that professionalisation, that support for members, without being too onerous as well, which is really important. So we do listen from the pilot phase, kind of the amount of work that was involved with it, to now, and to that feeding into and working closely with other standards. So that's the aim, is to help professionalise, build that credibility, and then when we're having them conversations at government level of where we can support the NHS, where we can support health, we've got that as a platform as well to build from.
I think it's a great position to be in as well, because if you're I don't know, brand new independent club, you've no idea of standards, because let's be honest, a lot of people come from outside the industry or from a PT, so they've never been operational. To suddenly have a set of standards, you can go, right, that's, if I do nothing else but deliver that, I know I'm going to be safe, I know I'm going to operate well. And I think it's a long time coming, and I think it needs that. I mean, you look, the food industry has it, hotel industries have it, across the board. And for a lot of clubs, Quest is too expensive. For an independent club to get Quest in, to do all that, it's just, one, quite onerous in terms of the amount of stuff that's involved in that. So it doesn't really fit with an independent. But also to have something there, you can just go, actually, that's what I need to do. And that's the benefit of franchising, as you well know. You get all that. That gets handed to you. This is how you run your club. This is what you do. But for most independents, they've never had that. So they're sort of almost, when they start, a wing and a prayer, going, I think I should do this, I think I should do that. But to have a set of standards to go, if I do this, I'm compliant with all the things I need to be compliant with. And as an industry, you guys know we're driving up standards, so that when we're talking to government, we can say 80% of our industry stick to these standards, and this is what we can deliver.
100%. That's the aim, mate. To make it easy, supportive for members, and build that credibility. And over time, as it grows, who knows? You know, suppliers showing interest in it, it'll give people, investors, more confidence as well. So yeah, that's the aim. Again, some massive pieces of work that have been kind of in the planning for a few years, pilot stage, maybe interrupted slightly by the pandemic. That's the other thing I think is quite a nice opportunity thing to look forward now. The sector is looking forward. We've had such a hit. Last year was a consolidation year, energy crisis straight off the back of the pandemic. Speaking to people now, being at events, growth is there. You know, the appetite, the membership growth is there. Yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's still the inflation, cost of living, energy crisis to an extent, but that would be so much worse if membership wasn't growing. So it's lovely to see that we're starting to look forward positively. Not that the best thing I've known since coming into this job from our members is that resilience. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, to be fair, it's one of those industries that's very innovative anyway. So I think when things come up, people, just because of the type of people that are in the industry, it does attract a certain type of person. They're quite quick to adapt. And I think that's the one benefit. Other industries, I've worked in a few, and they don't quite have that same, right, we need to make this change now and just get, and I think our industry does that, which is, I mean, you look at the pandemic, suddenly within days we were online, and it was just like, wow, okay, that's how quick we can act. And I think we had so many changes. The pandemic was bad, obviously. A lot of people lost a lot of money and it was difficult. But I think from an innovation point of view and standards and things, I think it's jumped us 5 years. I think because everyone was forced to. Things like standards, we suddenly had to, because the one thing that made me laugh, I know you guys were trying to push the advocacy of the industry, but it was, our clubs are clean. And I was just like, not the ones I've seen, they're not. And but what the pandemic did, it forced everybody's standards up. And suddenly these clubs were now clean because they had to be. The health and safety was suddenly so much better. And the quality of the clubs actually improved, and so did our innovation. And I think from that point of view, whilst it was a dreadful thing to happen, I think it actually improved our industry by quite considerably.
And the acknowledgement from society generally around the importance of health. And I think it's really important that we cling on to that, and that's part of the message driving forward with government and with society. We had a once in a lifetime opportunity. Everybody was allowed out once a day for the family walk and the bike rides and so on. It was like we need to keep on with that, and we need to keep pressing that message. So yeah, I agree.
It was really interesting, actually. Someone was talking about Peloton the other day, and because obviously they're still struggling, they're struggling again, and it was interesting because their whole business model was built on the fact that during the pandemic, everyone had gone online, and that was going to be the new normal. But it was amazing how quickly the brick and mortar suddenly, it was just like switch on, everybody's back at the clubs. And I know it took a while for membership to come back, but generally, the brick and mortar instantly kicked back in, and the online quite quickly disappeared.
Yeah, and I think we're still finding the change and the new norm, aren't we, with the hybrid working and the training, and that's, you're right about the innovation. UCAT we've never really focused on consumer previously, but now since the pandemic, we've got quite a focus on consumer engagement for that reason. So we do quarterly polling to look at trends, to feed back into the sector, feed back into our members, into suppliers, and said these are what the consumer insights are to help adapt programs, product development as well. So and yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, that we've got the hybrid working, like I said, Monday and Friday, maybe quieter in some cities than others. But there's more and more people now thinking, I want to spend more time in the office or in, like I said, in the physical building, certainly from a training perspective. So, and that might be one of the benefits of the energy crisis.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll talk about that because I know you guys are doing some work on that. But just quickly to capture on this, because obviously there was a organisation that sort of launched with all you guys as sort of a global active, wasn't there? I can't remember. It might be called Global Active, but it might be, yeah. How has that impacted? Has that made a big difference to the individual countries in terms of things like knowledge and understanding?
No, I think again, still in its early stages. There was out at FIBO with us last week, and we had the Europe Active team at our ukactive dinner. Ukactive, being one of the most long-standing trade associations, is still quite an influencer and kind of revered around the world as a bit of a pedestal, which is great. And we work really closely with Europe Active, with Dave Stalker at the helm there. And it goes back to that collaboration. It's important for us to support other trade associations from the world, around the world, because that'll help. That the kind of the rising tide lifts all boats analogy. That will help put our sector globally on that pedestal, raise the awareness from governments across the world, and the benchmarking work that we're doing. That's fully aligned with the European Data Hub. So the benchmark that we get will be consistent across Europe to allow our members to then benchmark against the peers locally, nationally, but also across Europe. So the World Active Forum is in its infancy, but again, I think it's only a good thing for our members, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just more data, is it? More data, more information. And also you can learn from, because various countries have managed to get things like tax discounts and stuff like that. I think it's Romania, isn't it? Or Albania. I know the US have got something going through theirs. Slightly different because they have health insurance and they're able to use the tax benefits for that. But it just allows you to see what policies are happening elsewhere and how they've influenced government, so you guys can potentially do the same.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's collaboration piece, sharing best practice, and then taking that into government and saying this is what's working well here. So yeah, you're spot on.
Now you talked about the energy crisis, and I understand you guys are doing some work with Ofgem, see whether you guys can come up with something for the industry. Yeah,
and again, it's an innovative piece of work, really exciting project to work on, born out of feedback from members who, and again, from different sectors. So you've got different members at different stages on their decarbonisation journey. Lots of frustration from members saying we'd love to be on the journey to net zero and decarbonisation, but the reality is we have to focus on keeping the doors open and the lights on now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the costs are so intense now, we can't even think about investing. So we convene a group of experts, including suppliers. Operators were telling us that they was inundated with suppliers with solutions, and there was a lack of confidence and awareness from members of where's the best place to look. Where if I've got the money I need to invest, I can only invest it once, and I want to invest that right. Yeah. So it was around looking at an education piece, like I said, convening experts, including operators who are quite far advanced on their journey to advise and support the sector. And as that's kind of snowballed and grown, we're doing some work with the East Midlands Net Zero Hub, and partners with Leisure Energy on creating a toolkit for the sector. Okay. So, and that's it's going to be 12 sites across the country, but it's a 50% split of public and private facilities, where Leisure Energy were going to do an audit with us with the Net Zero Hub to create a toolkit for members to go, right, this facility, size, age is probably similar to mine. So that will be, we've got independents, we've got small private, we've got privates with wet sides, public leisure. You know, we're trying to get a good mix, and that will be released hopefully later this year, so that members can look at it and go, right, benchmarking. How can we save money now? So it's kind of split into three phases. That's phase one, kind of sticking to how do we look at saving costs. And then the third phase will be true sustainability. What does that look like? What is the education? What's the support that the sector needs? Where's the safe house to come to into for information? Listen, Ryan, I'm not an expert. I'm learning about it myself as well. But exactly, surrounding ourselves and convening experts has been brilliant. So Sport England are on board supporting that. Ofgem have been brilliant. We had Hugh went and represented the sector at the Barbican in front of 2,000 Ofgem staff a few weeks ago. The Ofgem CEO came out to visit John Oxley's site, actually in Stockport, which was the first site in our sector that they'd been and seen, and went and visited the plant room and were blown away by that. So yeah, again, really kind of building that advocacy piece of organisations and key supporters who want to drive that forward. And we've just completed our latest round of the Energy Risks Register survey. So again, results will be shared relatively soon, but early indication is, and you might come across this, that it's slowly but surely the costs are coming down, and the kind of pressure is getting better. So we can start again looking ahead. It's still not where they were. But that combined with innovation, raised awareness and education from operators and members, and more efficiencies is hopefully.
I think that's the key, isn't it? It's trying to go, if you invest this is your benefit, because obviously just beating people with a net zero strapline doesn't really help. It's it doesn't matter what operator you are, you're there to make a profit, or at least keep, like you say, keep the doors open. What you don't need then is suddenly loads of people coming in. You need to now be net zero, but you got to invest £500,000 to do it. And so the work you guys are doing hopefully will give them, well, this is your solution, this is how you get there, this is your journey. And people can then get behind it and see the value behind it, because it's benefiting their business as well as their reputation and so on. So
we've got people who want to support the sector around, which is lovely. It's another lovely part of this sector. We've got people who genuinely want to help. So as part of that steering group, like I said, we've got some of the big national operators and their sustainability leads coming in and supporting that. I had a meeting yesterday with one of the largest private operator chains. They've got four members of staff in that team. So you can imagine that the level of engagement, involvement, and expertise there. And we were having that conversation around coming and supporting the Sustainable Futures work, and then helping us with meetings with the likes of Sport England and what the opportunities are. And their knowledge that they can pass on to us will help your smallest independent operator who hasn't yet started that journey. But in the same breath, John Grinrod at FTC gyms, he's investing heavily in his independent operator sites around this area and having positive impacts as well. So there's lots going on, and our job is to share that best practice, help educate all members to kind of make it easier for them on their journey.
Absolutely. Now, just because obviously I've had you on for quite a while already, in terms of sort of projects that we wouldn't necessarily know about, are there things out there that you guys are working on in the background and sort of go, this is some of the stuff that we're doing as well?
I think a lot of it this year is because general election years around lobbying, so it's that show and tell. We want members to feed in good practice case studies to us.
And how would they do that, Danny? What's the process? Do they just email you guys? Is there a place they can go on and do that?
Yeah, so each member will have a member experience manager, so somebody within my team, account manager. They can contact them, or we've got a generic membership at ukactive inbox, which is manned, and then we have our press team as well. So we have the media team. So we have the daily media reviews that go out daily, and it's about showcasing that. We've just launched the ukactive Awards. So again, opportunity for members to enter the awards, showcase, celebrate the work of their teams, different awards from innovation to Club of the Year, get involved there to really raise the flag and celebrate the work of our sector. So I mean, and it's not new, these things that have been happening, but it's very much show us, let us showcase that. National Fitness Day coming up, what campaigns?
I was going to say, being an election year, is there something big planned for that? I mean, it's obviously very big anyway, but are you guys, you don't have to say exactly what you're doing, but is it something you guys are going, actually, this is a massive opportunity because potentially it's going to be a month, 2 months max before the actual general election? Is it something you guys are taking on and going, this is a real opportunity?
It's a good question, actually, and it's only a conversation we had in our last round of member councils, part of the governance structure. And so I've got quite a clear answer to this. The work doesn't. It started years ago. So it doesn't change. Our direction doesn't change. We still meet with the same people. We're not changing tack. We're not changing narrative. It's still very much, our sector. No wealth without health. Our sector is and should be the first mile of the NHS. We can help reduce wait lists. So it's very much continuing the meetings with current government, with opposition, influencing their manifestos, offering support and guidance. If there's things that come up in their manifesto, we're saying this is where our members can support. And then, but there will be a toolkit for members that will come out leading into once the general election's been announced. There'll be a support toolkit that's shared with members so they can see what they can do, how they can influence locally and get involved.
Yeah. Oh,
brilliant. I mean, the other last piece is with the ICBs, the Integrated Care Boards and ICS, around looking at some exemplar works and really shining a spotlight on intense focus of best practice. So whether that be public operators, independent gyms, private suppliers as well. Was at a FIBO meeting with some of our supply members. The innovation is incredible. It's insane. So really bringing that and sharing best practice within the ICB. So trying to get more people in to see what we're doing.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. And I can imagine most of us in the industry would love to be a fly on the wall as you're speaking to the opposition, because it'd be interesting to, obviously I'm not going to ask you to say, but I can imagine there's a very different approach between the two. And it'd just be interesting to see who's buying in more into that and see who sees the value in what you guys are doing and what the industry does. But I can imagine they're quite interesting conversations between the two, but I won't make you comment on that.
Well, we was lucky enough to have both government and the opposition represented at Active Uprising at the end of January, and both were giving really positive vibes around the work of our members. So we just need to keep doing what we're doing, right?
Absolutely, and I guess that's probably a really good place to end it in terms of the fact that you guys are doing some great work now. Obviously, the fact that we see you guys in the press, we see you guys a lot more active in terms of what's going on. Hugh's always on the TV, and I think that's a really positive for our industry, putting that message across. Now, in terms of one final point, in terms of you personally, Danny, we always ask all our guests what their biggest motivator is. So what gets you out of bed in the morning? What's your key driver?
It's a great question, and I think that changes. So you've got the personal bit is the kids and the family, and providing for the family. Professionally, it's got to be making a difference and having that positive change. So there's a reason. The easiest thing for me to do before ukactive would have been to stay where I was, but it was time. It's 15 years. It was time to change, and I think meetings like this, hearing that we're changing perceptions, we're making a difference, we're supporting. I love the innovation within the sector. I love speaking to operators who are doing well, you know, who are telling me that their membership's going through the roof, that they're on the verge of opening a new club, they're putting new kit in, and just supporting that to make a difference. Sport and physical activities, like I said to you a bit earlier, it's run through my entire life. It's what has made me who I am socially, as a father, as a parent. It's entrenched and ingrained throughout my family life. So it's a great job to be in, to be able to showcase the impact that has. Yes, there's frustrations for us all with it, because sometimes you want to get people in shakes to look at the difference from whether that's from cradle to grave. But it's nice to be able to be part of that influence and at least be involved in the conversation. So that's my why, mate.
Well, let's be honest. It's very difficult for one industry to change a lifestyle piece, isn't it? You know what I mean? We're only a small part in. If we're going to make changes, we've got to change the food industry and reduce half the sugar and the rubbish that's in our food. I think that's what's causing half the problems with obesity, diabetes, all that. It's yes, it's health and wellness and being fit and healthy, but while you're putting loads of rubbish in your body, it's never going to help. So I think someone needs to get to grip of that. But that's not UK Active. You guys can only focus on what you guys can focus on. And I think genuinely, I think most industry would say you guys are doing a great job at the minute. Keep that up. Keep pushing forward, and hopefully, once something will click eventually, and these politicians will start properly listening rather than lip service, which I think we're still on the cusp of them actually going, yes, here you go, we're gonna back you guys. So but I really appreciate you coming on, Danny. I appreciate your time this morning. If anybody wants to get in touch with Danny, if you don't have membership of UK Active, want to learn more, all the details will be at the end of the podcast. But thank you very much for your time.
No worries, Ryan. It's been a great chat. Thanks for having me, mate. And appreciate your advocacy, kind words. We've got to stick together. Thank you, mate.
Pleasure.